Everybody's talking about bragism, tagism, bragism, magism, bagism, this ism, that ism, ism, atomism. All we are saying is give fish a chance. All we are saying is give fish a chance. Give fish a chance, folks. How are we doing today? I hope we're doing well. Sorry about the extremely late start. If you knew about the first start time, which apparently I didn't, I scheduled myself for when I thought I'd be out of the the doctor. I got my leg rewrapped as I do every week, twice a week. Still, that's getting real old, but making lots of progress. And yeah, the hat, oh, it's not even going the right way, is it? I don't know. Is it saying the right thing to you guys? Let's see here. I think it needs to be flipped. I think I'm there. Is that how we want it? Let's try that. Is that better? Yeah, now we can see it. Not dire straits. Well, I could do something real out there, like a love struck Romeo on the streets of Serenade. Love struck Romeo with the love song that he made. You talk about people, says something like that. You and me, babe, how about it? If someone wanted Dire Straits, I guess that's Mark Knopfler. I guess that's probably not actually Dire Straits, is it? It's probably him solo. But I guess we could do. You want your fish for nothing and your shrimp for free? I want my fish for free. I can't even do it. My voice would give out too poorly. I won't subject you to that. But how are we doing, you guys? Are we doing well? Are we doing good? Jan, what's up? Kelly, or I guess it could be Keely, but I'm gonna go with Kelly. And then Carson Fram, what is going on? You were here for 30 minutes. Man, I'm sorry, buddy. It's my fault. Well, I'll tell you a secret. You can get this hat at Aquatic Arts. It's I'm not gonna lie, the hat's a little bit of it's too much money. Let me just say that. I'll say that. I'm gonna ask about maybe he can give me a code. So I mean, you guys can get 15% off with FISHTORY 15 as a code, but yeah, it's kind of a one size fits all hat, and for me that means I got a big head. I'm 6 foot or so, and obviously very skinny, very very svelte. But no, I have a big head, and so I think it. They should probably do a large and a small or something. Maybe I'll talk to him. But he sent this out as kind of like a first version. They have stickers that say the same. That are like $2 on their website. But yeah, they're working on some cool merch ideas over there, and they sent out this to me, and I got a kick out of this. I'll only wear certain things. Like I'm not going to put on merch just to put on merch. I'll put on whatever I'd actually wear. Let's see here. Andrea, I didn't get any ads. Well, that's good, because I try to set it so that it won't play. Like, you can set it so it won't play ads at all, but then nothing's monetized. But you can set it so it plays either minimal, or you let YouTube decide. And like they really want you to do the YouTube decide, but I have it set to the minimal. So I think you guys get in theory, you're supposed to get in Europe. I think it's less ads. Like maybe they don't even run ads on some of the streams, and then depending on the country, and then in the US, it's like before the stream, and then there's one random one per hour or something like that. I think. I hate the ads during live streams, though. I wish we could turn that off completely. But like, if your channel is monetized, then they want that on. If you want your stream to be able to get like super chats and stuff like that, it's like in the same menu as that. Alex, you on Facebook at all? Yeah, I am on Facebook, and we have a Facebook group with a few thousand people in it. That's actually the one, because I'm a boomer, the spot I go to the most, more than Discord even. I check in there. I don't always like get super involved because I try to still answer comments on videos and things like that a few hours a day, instead of being in the groups where you can share pictures and stuff. But if I see a picture and nobody's answered at all anything helpful, like that's when, I try my best to chime in. So yeah. But yeah, where do I sell extra plants? Yeah, I don't have like a set place or anything like that. Usually if I have extra plants in tanks like the ones behind me in the picture here, right now, in fact, that tank is about like that again. So I will be trimming it in probably a week right now. I'm looking at it, in probably a week I'll trim it, but I just trimmed it recently, and we're going to be starting on building. We got all the parts, the rocks, the soil, the tissue cultures for the build that we're doing the series with the high-tech tank. I kind of just wanted to wait till we were settled into the new year. I kind of made in my head, it didn't make sense to jump in and start that like at the end of December. I thought it would make more sense like right at the end of when kind of everyone went back to work and school and all that stuff. I'd start it up then and kind of go with it through into spring, and then hopefully by spring we'll have a total of what I outlined on the community tab, which is like 15 videos that includes how to work with CO2, how to set up CO2, how to work with the filtration system that ADA has, and also how to work with their substrate and soil system. I have been in contact with both ADA Japan and the Aqua Forest or aquarium in San Francisco, or Aqua Forest Amano. Boy, I sound dumb now. Hold on, let me check that, because now I'm questioning what AFA stands for, but it's like Aqua Forest Aquarium, I think, right? Or is it Aqua Forest Amano? AFA San Francisco Aquarium. The AFA, unfortunately, is an acronym that like every freaking company in the world. Aqua Forest Aquarium. Yeah, okay. Aqua Forest Aquarium is for sure what it stands for. Okay. Was gonna feel really dumb. But yeah, the plants, I'll every once in a while when I trim them, I'll sell them. If it's not like freezing out. Right now, it's been freezing out in Washington, and definitely in other places. So I kind of just sell them locally generally, but it depends where you're at. Like if you're in Florida or Southern California, we could probably figure that out sooner than later. But yeah. Let's see here. You can turn it off with a rooted Android device. Oh, interesting. Are you talking about the ads? Anyways, let's see here. Oh, Jen says, I got the best front door mat on our house. Welcome. Hope you like fish. Yeah, that's a good one. Yeah, I mean, be a good one to be like, like something about your gills or your fins would be another cute one. I should think of something. Get into the doormat sales business. According to some folks, I'm already a big old doormat. Anyways, Fish Dad, what's going? Got some really nice green reelies today. That's cool. Those are kind of unusual. And some isopods, right on. Isopods, incredible. The roly-polies underwater, usually they don't really roll up into roly-poly balls underwater. What they do is they kind of suck down flat against surfaces underwater, and then they use their armor, as armor over their body rather than rolling up sectionally like they do terrestrially. But the underwater isopods or woodlouse, they're really, really pretty incredible what they're finding now. They're using them in a lot of different breeding facilities, like fishery facilities in Asia, and like China's been using them now for about 3 or 4 years. And also like aquaculture, there's a whole, I guess you'd call it vermiculture, because they're technically like pests or whatever, to most people. But they have found that the eggs that are living with isopods are healthier than eggs without isopods in the chamber. So they're actually actively taking away fungus eggs and bacterial compromised eggs from fish, and they actually will like kind of roll them or scoot them out of the clutch, and they'll eat them, and they'll eat the extra fungus, and then leave the healthy eggs completely alone, unless like they've completely been starving for a really long time. And I think in that case, then they do sometimes eat eggs. But in the studies that I found, where they've actually done academic studies on it, there's some really recent ones too. They tried it with Danios. They tried it with some other egg scatterers, goldfish, and they also even tried it with rice fish and a number of others. So different types of eggs. That's like the rice fish have like the sticky stuff on their group of eggs or clutch of eggs that sticks to stuff, and they kind of all come in a big blob. And I think that sticky adhesive stuff that's like glue that's all over the eggs, a clear snotty like stuff that they're in my head, I was wondering, like, is that protein? Would the isopods all just eat that and then keep going to the eggs? But it appears as though they are not, and they are just helping things. Girl 88 says, hey everybody, I was just watching an old FISHTORY. Well, thank you. I appreciate that when folks go back into the 2,000 or so odd videos that I've now created and decide to sit on down and watch one. Does anybody know the Facebook name? Yeah, it's FISHTORY. You should see it. It should have a picture. I think it's got an old timey picture of an aquarium, but I think that's what the thumbnail is, and it should say like FISHTORY exclamation point. I'm pretty sure that's what it is still. And then let's see here. Who else is doing what? I should say hello to more folks who come in. Roy, North Carolina, what's going on? Michelle, good to see you. Hope you're doing well. Also, Lush Salty, good to see you, buddy. Hello again from my fish room in Chicago. The ADA Superjet is boku bucks, but it is a very, very nice machine. Can't wait. I know. I've set it up. I set it up in the bathtub. Is that weird? Does that make me a weirdo? I have not run it yet with like everything cycling, like started that process. But I did set it up in the bathtub with me, and I did play with it for a little bit just to kind of see how it worked. And I have the ES 300 Superjet by ADA, and yeah, it's like $500. Like, so I have to be really honest in my review and basically say, like, I would not buy this unless I had endless amounts of money to spend, or I just absolutely love the look of it all, right? Like, if I love that interior design look that ADA kind of has created, I would probably buy the glass cabinet rather than a wood or black or whatever cabinet. I'd probably get the glass like column one, and I'd probably hide every little bit of aquarium hardware that I could. I might even custom cut into a rimless tank. I'd probably even get rid of lily pipes and do like a bottom flow, inflow outflow of water if I just had endless amounts of money. But I could also see, it's a lot of money, but for the first time in my life, rather than just kind of making fun of like people spending that kind of money on something, I realized, I meditated on it, and I realized that I'm just jealous. Like, that's what it comes down to. I'm jealous that I don't have $500 to spend on an aquarium filter and not bat an eye. On one hand, that's just one part of my brain that I had not acknowledged, and that I kind of poo-pooed that. And I worked in an aquascaping shop, and even thought to myself, like, these people don't know what they're doing in the hobby, and they're going to buy a $500 filter. Why? But it's kind of like a Ferrari or a Rolex when you think about it. Like, if that is the status symbol, that is the design, the aesthetic, the look, the feel, the vibe that you want to curate for yourself, maybe you've looked up to that for years, then I get it. But if you're just trying to get something that functions well, it's not ever going to be worth the money dollar per dollar. You know what I mean? There's substrates and things like that. I think some of that, you could argue, is worth paying triple or double what you'd pay for other brands of substrates and things like that. But not so much with with the actual filter that's that much. So I think it needs to be when I review it, it needs to be from the point of view of, like, instead of spending 10 grand on an entire fish room over the course of a year when you're setting it up or whatever, like, what if you were to just set up one really nice tank in an apartment or a condo or something? You're on the 40th floor and you can't do a big setup, so you're going to do like a 60p rimless. What about making that one tank really, really nice and being really involved with trimming it and working on it? That's where I could see where you might want the very best of the best scissors and things like that, especially if you've already had the kind of PetSmart special put slapdash kit where you're using, pillow floss from Michaels or Joanne Fabrics, not the stuff that's treated with fire retardant, but the actual just the batting, acrylic batting you can get is the same thing as you use for filter floss. You can get it really cheap sometimes in rolls too. Let's see here. Wicked freaking aquatics, how's it going? All your aquatic isopods disappeared. I've had that same thing happen in some aquariums where I'm like, where are you little knuckleheads? And I'm like, did the fish eat them all? Did they just disappear? In tanks like the ones behind me yet again. And what happens is I'll catch all the fish out, and whenever I'm moving them or something, and they'll be in the substrate. They'll be in there, and I think they're just eating mulm and like stuff like that, and bacteria and cyanobacteria. I think they're literally just content enough eating that in a lot of cases, and they don't even need to come up and be seen in the daylight. In a lot of cases. Now, if you had a brand new tank, substrate wise, that's what I haven't really played with, is like brand new tank, put them in there with no bio or organic debris, you know, for them to go through, because they love rotting, even just like leaves or fish poo or whatever, any of that stuff. That's what they're going to eat, plus the fungus and the bacteria that grow on it. And that means that they can live pretty much anywhere where there's enough oxygen for those things to grow. But yeah, I can definitely see how fish could do a number bad enough that they might take out most of your isopods as well. So if you have something that digs, or something that's really down there hunting, like quarries or something, maybe, yeah. Carson Fram says, I collected 100 of them, and they in it for the community tank, and they didn't last a day. Were they the aquatic ones? Like, you for sure found them underwater 24/7? They weren't just at the edge of the water or going, because actually there's a lot of insects that are able to go underwater and go in the water, but they're not the aquatic per se species. They just have the ability to a lot of insects just breathe through tubules, so they basically just can absorb air by flexing these little pipes that go through their body, and then that comes in close enough contact with the a membrane where the blood oxygenates, and they don't have like lungs or gills necessarily, and so they can do that up in the air, and then, you know, for 20 minutes or 30 minutes they can go wander around before they need more. It's pretty wild. But let's see here. JP Jeffries, what's going on? Good to see you. Michelle, let's see here. Alexander Williamson, question mark. What did I miss? Hold on. Let's see here. YouTube Vance used to be easy and available to download for blocking YouTube ads. Now you have to download the APK files for it. I don't know about that. I don't know anything about like the pop-up blockers that are out today, to be quite frank. I'm sure there's some out there. They tell us on the user college or whatever, it's like, tell your viewers not to use ad blockers because you're not going to get the money. And it's like, you know, whatever. But yeah, holy smokes, Jan has 39 aquariums all over the house. That's about where I topped out, and then had to work my way down. I hope I can work my way back up in maybe a year or something like that, you know. Are all shrimp with orange eyes and red eyes blind? No, no. Shrimp, a lot of the shrimp are not blind that have those eye mutations at all. The orange-eyed shrimp, you know, but it doesn't really matter if a shrimp is blind, but some shrimp have some of the best vision in the world. Like mantis shrimp, for instance, that's a different, you know, group altogether, but they are able to see like even a little bit of ultraviolet spectrum, and I mean, like crazy good vision. Also, there's another shrimp that can see really, really well too, and I'm trying to remember which one it is. But in any case, there are several shrimp that can see really, really well, and the like Neocaridina and Caridina shrimp, they can see pretty well, but they don't need to. Like, even if they're born without eyes, or if they were blinded, they can navigate their world 100% in the dark. If you turn the lights off in a shrimp tank, you will find that if you put food in it, they will find it. Even if you put a dark blanket, like you're doing a blackout on your tank, they'll find it. I promise you. So I think they really don't even, I don't think that it matters if they're blind or not, in the sense of, I think they can even feel like fish coming and stuff with those long antennae that go out. They're almost their body length in a lot of cases. Pretty wild. Also, there was a trivia question I threw out into the stream earlier, and it was, what is the most popular fish character or fish that there's merchandise of, or that we sell content of. And I think a lot of you probably got this one if you think about it. But it surprised me when I heard something about it. And it wasn't in the context of aquariums. It was in the context of Pixar, if that helps, and then Disney owning it. But it was about the actual like IP value, the intellectual property value of said character. And I actually was a little surprised. It's from Finding Nemo. It's the Pacific blue tang, and it is Dory. So Dory from Finding Nemo and Finding Dory, I guess, is the other movie, right? That is the most popular fish that's been depicted, is the blue tang. Nemo started out in the first movie as being the most popular, but by a few months after the movie came out, they noticed that their sales were double on merchandise with Dory. And so they, I guess that's why they made the movie and stuff. But anyways, I thought that was interesting. And then they were talking about how like that still to this day, like the fact that they licensed Dory and Nemo and whatever, what's the dad's name, Bob, Carl, something like that, whatever, Stu, his name's Travis, his name is Aiden, Caden, Jaden, Braden. He though, anyways, I'm sure doesn't sell much merch, even though he's probably the same as his son. I guess his son has a little more googly eyes, bigger dopey eyes, doe-eyed, as you would say. But yeah, they said it was worth, still tens of millions of dollars every year, the merchandise that gets sold behind that. And the actual number of people that bought clownfish and or powder blue tangs, Pacific blue tangs, absolutely skyrocketed, and for better or worse. But now, one of our friends of the channel, the Florida Aquaculture Research Center, they are able to breed firefish and powder blue tangs. For a long time, we've been able to breed clownfish. Obviously, there's all the different kinds now, all the different designer ones, the buffalo ones and the snowflake ones. And you guys, you've probably seen them if you're into saltwater at all. Even if you're not into saltwater, you've probably seen them. There's some pretty cool ones that have been bred, that's for sure. But they said that like it was an actual problem for a while. The amount of people getting fish, even really expensive, powder blue tangs are not cheap, or Pacific blue tangs are not cheap. So people were paying hundreds of dollars to get their kid this fish. And a lot of times, like, people would throw them in fresh water or do just incredibly stupid things, put them in a fish bowl, stuff like that. Which is like, did you watch the freaking movie? You don't abuse your fish. Anyways, Wicked Freaking Aquatics, working on orange-eyed realies, yellow and orange-eyed realies. That's pretty cool. Same branch in the breeding tree, so I hope it works. Yeah, the eyes are independent genetically of the other stuff, but using the yellow, orange realies, green realies, and orange, yellow, and green, and I guess snowball, all could be from the Palmata chunk of things. They could also be a hybrid, or they could also be off the yellow that comes out of the cherry Sakura line. It kind of depends on which yellow it's coming from. But yeah, there is a yellow-green line that comes from Palmata too, that you can work with pretty easily, where most of those realies or Rileys come from, for sure. But the eye should be independent an independent enough gene that once you have it, you can cross it in, and it is not dominant, but you can get it to be the allele that expresses within 3 generations, when you know what you're working with. Let's see here. The other thing I'm looking at, anyone good know, I don't know any fish stores in Wisconsin, but that would be a great question for others in the chat, just like you threw out there. And, the other good place for Wisconsin fish would probably be talking to the Aquarium Bros podcast. If you have Discord, they know everything that's up there in Minnesota and Wisconsin, even like into the North and South Dakota area. They know everybody in all the shops and all of their names. Every lock that ain't locked when no one's around, I have old stogies. I have found short but not too big around. I'm a man of means by no means. Dum, dum, king of the road. Let's see here. HBPR2TQ. Man, I know I'm supposed to say that a certain way or something, but I can't do it. And hello to you. I should tell you though that I do. Let me get rid of this. Let me get rid of the comment off the screen real quick. And also, let me get caught up on chat real quick. Where do I find really nice quality aquarium tweezers? You can get some good, even like Fluval ones are fairly decent, but ADA ones, I think you pay like, well, it depends on your country and where you're at and everything. Somewhere between usually $30 and $80 US or euros, somewhere in there kind of thing for the tools from ADA. But you can get the Fluval ones, which I feel are fairly decent for like, I think it's maybe 39 or 29 bucks for, you get the spatula, scraper, leveler, spreader. Then you get the tweezers and you get the scissors, and in some, there might be even a kit where you get all 4, where you get the curved scissors too. But that one's pretty decent. It's like black metal coated. It's metal coated in like a enamel or something like that. The Isopod Agenda, JP Jeffries. Let's see here. Oh yeah, you could get them from Aquarium Co-op. I don't know how I feel about those long term. I'm sure they're probably decent. They're probably not top of the line, but they'll probably do you well too. Usually their stuff is very like generic. It's kind of the middle of the road, but it's usually like pretty well tested middle of the road stuff is what my general experience is. Although like their lights, their heaters, their well, they don't really have filters other than the sponge filters, but all the stuff that they've worked on that's more complicated, it seems like there's been some issues. Their fish tanks, those still aren't really being sold around the country or anything. So they're all the, generic branding. So I kind of wonder if it's just that Corey, the owner, if he has a tolerance that's more like, it doesn't put up with the level of breakage or dysfunction that goes with a lot of these products in general. But he also doesn't want to sell a product that costs $300 when he can sell one that sells for $150. He still is got to make really good money profit wise, or it's not worth it with shipping and warehousing and all the stuff that comes with that. But beyond that, he tends to be a pretty savvy guy with making sure he's got a good profit margin and all that stuff. So I think even despite like the current tariffs and things that may happen, I've noticed they're doing a lot more stuff in their store anyways, like 3D printed doodads, and some of the prices are pretty insane, honestly. They have like snail catchers and a few things like that are like 10 or 20 bucks a pop, and they're 3D printed like this yay big things that are fairly simple. And it looks like they were just 3D printed, like maybe they've got like 10 3D printers just working on printing them. I don't know. They take couple hours each. I'm not sure. I really was wondering about that though, like where the heck they get made. All right, what was this? FISHTORY. I have some fish traps or 2-liter bottles, and I added bread, algae wafers, and local streams that I pulled besides. Oh, nice. How did that turn out? Do you find anything interesting? The only thing I would say, yeah, algae wafers, that's great. I don't know if I'd use bread, because you're not going to use bread in your aquarium. So I would use whatever it is that they're going to be able to feed on, that you want them to feed on, as the bait. I mean, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe that a certain insect or a little isopod or whatever just loves bread. And it's just an easy way to catch them. But my point is being that, like, you want them to come and be around and be able to be part of your ecosystem, and not to only want the bread or whatever, some starchy thing that's not going to actually be available for them in the aquarium. Aurelio, hello, welcome. Shao, it's quite hard to cope with the difference in time zones, but it's always a pleasure to listen to your podcast, watch your old videos. Oh, sorry about the time zones. Yes. But grazie for coming by and hanging out with us. I do have a couple things to share with y'all today during the stream, but I'm just trying to catch up with Chad, and I've been talking too much to each of you. But let me read through the rest of these real quick, and try not to look. I try not to look too crazy when I'm like reading. I'm like, I don't even know my mouth's moving. A lot of times I'll mouth what I'm saying or whatever, and I'm sure I look insane. All right, I'm going to look for tags of @Alex or @Alexander. Oh, Fish Dad left. Okay, bye, Fish Dad. If you're still here, take care. Lisa the Wolf, what's up? Need downtime, some thanks. I have a couple surgeries coming up and anticipate I won't have the energy to care for them. I feel you. I feel you on that. Sorry about that, but that's a rough one. But I'm sure you'll be all right. Barbara Jackson, what's going on? Good to see you. I hope you have a lovely New Year's, and the new year is treating you wonderfully. It's so good to see you. Awesome. Okay. Aqua George, what's going on, buddy? Aqua Vitro makes nice, affordable tools. That is very true. I agree. Those are nice. Agreed. Yeah. And let's see here. Some guy says, I just checked out PetSmart near me, and they said that female guppy can get 5 times bigger than a male on average. No. Mollies and platies, there are some probably swordtails, mollies, platies, things like that. There are some females that easily get probably 5 to 10 times the mass of the male. And guppies, easily the females can get 5 times the mass of the female can when full of babies. But 2 inches is like the biggest guppy you're gonna see. Swordtails and mollies, you can sometimes see like 3 or 4 inches. I've seen even up to like 5-inch mollies. Some of the wild ones are really big when they're living in brackish water and they have a ton of like mosquito larvae as food, just 24/7 out in the wild. Down in Florida and stuff, I've seen some really huge ones, but no, you're not gonna have to worry about that or ever deal with that size of a thing in your tank. Let's see here. Today I was actually watching a video about the painful number two. Wait, what is? NO2. Looks like my tank is not getting fully cycled despite having only one snail. No, yeah, you probably need more waste than that. You probably need more waste than one snail. Although, if you only have one snail, you may never have a dirty enough tank. If it's a big mystery snail or apple snail, then you will. But you might not ever have a dirty enough tank that it needs to be cycled. Now, if you want to add fish, then it does. But yeah, a lot of tanks, people think they need a cycled tank, and the truth is you don't. If you're just doing plants, or if you're just, in theory, you don't need to cycle it. It could be uncycled, and actually your plants wouldn't care at all. They could just eat the ammonia straight if that was being produced. Now, your organisms, though, that's who would start to suffer depending on the bioload. But I also will set up shrimp tanks without any, like Neocaridina or Malawa shrimp. I will set up a tank for them that is not cycled at all. I haven't cycled one bit. I just grabbed some plants from another tank, like even just a handful of guppy grass or something for them to hang on to until I plant it later or whatever. And I can have a 2.5 gallon or 5 gallon or 10 gallon tank, fill it with, soft, semi-soft water, a little bit of crushed coral, whatever substrate I want. Like I like fluval stratum or Brightwell soils, like Rio Escopa is, I think it's called. I like that one quite a bit. If I had my way, I would have Brightwell soil for all my shrimp only tanks, just because I like the way it's buffered. For my tap water, which is like right at neutral and usually like a TDS of 30 to 50, it's like perfect with just that for the Caridina shrimp. Now, Neocaridina and stuff like that, I actually have to add crushed coral to make them have a little higher KH. But yeah, those are great. Dagmar Haggerty, hello, how are you? Super busy for a while. Maybe I can catch a stream later. Have a great weekend, everyone. Hug to you, Alex. A hug to you, too, if you watch this on replay or if you're still here for a sec. I hope you're doing well. Trying to catch up. Family game night with Alex at FISHTORY. Right on. Family game night. That's fun. Laura and I, we were talking about going to play, if my leg's up to it. I have one of those like scooter dealies, where I can put my knee up, and so I'm not standing on the wounded foot still. But I can say that, knock on some wood, I haven't hurt. Like, the wound in my foot has not been infected since June, which is great. And I have now I've been able, like, the wound was at one point 1.5 inches deep. Like, the glass, that's how far it went up into my foot, hit the bone in the bottom of my foot, and it was a broken bottle. If you ever saw pictures or the original stuff, and then they had to cut my leg wide open looking for infection and all this other stuff, all the way up to my knee. But the broken bottle part of the glass that actually went up into my foot originally, that hit the bone and left a dent that's visible into the bone. Like, I had no idea it was that gnarly. I guess I have neuropathy already from when I hurt my back from the lightning, that made that leg very numb. So when I stepped on the glass, I knew I stepped on the glass. I knew I took out the bottle and that I had this odd circular puncture wound that's very unusual. But bottom of the foot, through the callus, and the fact that I had a really, really thick callus, like I had a callus that was, what'd they say, 1 centimeter or so thick, of the actual tissue was callus, not like living, but just this thick layered callus. And callus is very, very bizarre. Apparently, when you try to heal, you can't, your live skin doesn't want to heal back to the callus. And as you guys can probably see, I have like my knuckles, you see where they're everywhere where my skin moves, I get these plaques. That's from my autoimmune disorders. And, you know, I get it really bad on my elbow too this time of year when it's really cold out and dry air. So when it's been freezing, it's been bad. I know it's gross. It looks like my elbows are super dirty. What it is it's a callus. And so I have to literally, like, I'd have to soak it every night to get rid of it, like for a special event or whatnot. And same with my hands. I have to scrub for hours, or soak my knuckles for maybe an hour every single night. And I just don't have time to do that every single night. So, or be on medication that stops that, like steroids. But anyways, because of all of that, it's made the healing time really rough for my issue. I went and had some genetic testing done. I know this isn't fish related, but I figure I just mention it for those of you in interest. I had some genetic testing done and found out that I have 2 disorders genetically, like markers for them that would. One is that I produce skin cells and I shed them too quickly, which that's a no-brainer. I already knew that. I've known that for years because when I'd cut myself, it would heal very, very quickly, and I don't scar hardly at all. The other thing is I have what plaquing cells, which is an actual, like, there's a genetic thing that's related to eczema and other skin rashes. But basically it's like when your cells of your skin stack like dishes, and they should be more like kind of like scales or armor on on a cloth that moves with the surface of live cells underneath. And then they're kind of like the sacrificial lambs to any damage. When you scratch your arm and you see kind of like white dead dry skin or whatever, that's kind of the dead layer. Well, on me, that stack is like thick and it won't let go of the other living cell. And so when it rips off, it comes with a live cell and it can take chunks out. Anyways, that's gross and nobody asked about it, but I just figured I'd tell you guys that at least I found out a few things. Heavyweight champ, what's going on? Good to see you, man. Unless you are a woman, then good to see you still. But I just don't want to misgender. Don't want to make that mistake. Good Gamer Aquatic says, FISHTORY, will you be discussing the invasion of Venezuela and the implications for the hobby? I'm sad about Venezuelan people, but maybe we'll get Venezuelan exported. Okay, so fish like the Ultim. So here's the truth about Venezuela. The Orinoco, we already have fish from there. You may think that Venezuela is off limits, right? Well, the biggest exporters in all of Colombia are from the center or south of Colombia. And let me pull up a map for y'all. It's a map. And Ivan Mikolji I have made contact with, which is good because I was really scared that he wasn't doing well. I couldn't get a hold of him for like 2 or 3 days. Finally, I got a hold of his sister. And I think what's going on is he has no internet and a lot of electricity and stuff has been out he's not in Caracas, but he's in Valencia, which is another big city. People may not know this, but Venezuela has 30 million people. It's a big population. It's a big country. It was the richest country in South America until the 80s. Then there was a big gas thing. Now, I have actually had to learn quite a bit about this because the Diamond Tetra project, where where and I won't try to get too political with it, because I'm not in the mood to get into a political talk over this. But let me tell you as I understand it, because the Diamond Tetra project being reintroduced that we've been working on, there was a debate the entire time between Ivan and I about whether do we do this the official way, and we announce to the world that we're going to do this, we're going to reintroduce them, we get the genetics from this guy and we make sure that they're good. This older man who had a bunch of these fish in tanks and in ponds in his backyard that were caught from the lake back in the 80s, early 80s, and all the way back to the 60s. Some of his fish he doesn't remember. He's just got like not above ground, but he's got a pool, and then he's got some ponds, he's got a bunch of aquariums just outside, and he's got all these different fish that are from Lake Valencia. And he happened to have diamond tetras, and he happened to have those that are genetically from that lake. Now, they have a different, like, lilac, beautiful fin color on all their fins, the kind of semi-translucent fins where you see the fin rays. They have this nice lilac color when they're happy. And then their bodies also have like kind of a seafoam green to the silver. And you see that a little bit too in the originals. Now, they've been bred so differently because of the hobby they've been popular in the hobby for a long time. And even early on, like as early as the 50s or 60s, people took a bunch of those fish from the Lake Valencia drainage, and they knew that those fish existed in some lakes up higher in the hills, some flooded forests and swamps, streams and stuff like this. Well, this area in Lake Valencia, if you look on a map, it ends up being saved because it was a natural gas or oil. They call these preserves, have a name, and like the government says no one can be there, and they'll arm the entry on the nearest roads. And so there's no reason for anyone to be there other than, I guess, maybe stealing the oil or something. But they've capped off these wells, and they have these pipelines that did go through that area. And actually, that is the only reason why there was a population that survived past the 1980s, when there was this terrible mudslide and a hurricane and a series of events where they had logged a bunch of hillsides, deforested the big trees with the old roots. They built a bunch of houses, and also a bunch of squatters and things were spreading from the city of Valencia, and there was a bunch of pollution in the lake. Well, up in the foothills and back from the lake, a couple miles up creeks and streams, there were these ponds that seasonally, they may only be 20 or 30 feet across, and then they may be like an acre or two in the wet season, and maybe 5 feet deep. Well, these were the spots where those fish had kind of squirreled away and had been hiding up this one creek that Ivan found out about back in 2007 or 8 was the last time he photographed any of them. And they knew that they were kind of a secret amongst the ichthyologists and naturalists down there, that they had survived because this was like oil land. And luckily there'd been no spills or anything. A lot of times these old capped off wells were capped off really in a hurry and very like on the cheap, and stuff rusts in the rainforest, right? And so if it's not kept up, if it's not checked on, a lot of these wells are leaking. Now, the crude oil that comes out of there is very hard to use. That is to say, it has to be intensively refined. Now, the only reason, this is the part that I'll get political about, but I'm not going to say my opinion on it, but this is something you probably won't hear in the news, and it's something that I found very interesting because I don't know what to make of it yet. But the oil right now, oil prices, there's a glut of oil for one right now. And there's all these ships that are phantom ships that are owned by different companies sitting on oil that's waiting to be refined. It doesn't get counted until it gets refined. And so they have these massive tanker ships full of oil. Venezuela has these as well. But Venezuela produces so little oil now due to the legal sanctions, and as well as just basically, so they owe Valero, and they owe also ConocoPhillips each $4 billion because they had set up agreements to basically, they would get a 50-50 split of the oil. And if they built the infrastructure to bring it out, they would get that. Well, then the government nationalized it, and it became an 80-20 split with only 20% going to the oil companies. And they got mad. And what they did is they capped it, and they invested all their money up into Canada. And they spent almost $500 billion, that's with the T, dollars between all the different oil companies in research, development, exploration, and pipelines and drilling and all the rigs and things in the tar sands, the shale, the Brecken, like all these things that you've probably heard about, places where there's oil in North America in that central basin, from all the way up into Canada, all the way down to Texas, to the Gulf. And that is the low quality oil. Well, the trick is they don't want Venezuelan oil on the market right now, because right now oil's at $55 a barrel, and there's nowhere that's going to refine the oil down there, really. Like, they can refine enough for themselves barely, and there are other places that can refine that oil, Russia and China, and we didn't want them to have that oil. But Iran also could do it. Saudis could do it. They're not going to. They have sweet oil. They have like light crude that they barely need to do anything to, speaking. But this heavy, dirty oil, a lot of it too, they have to like literally grind down rocks and things, and put pressurized water and different acids and different mess with pH and all sorts of stuff to just get the stuff out of the ground. It's a real headache. But they still owe them money. And yes, Venezuela has the biggest proven reserves, but do you know how they know what the reserve size of oil in Venezuela is? It's up to the country to report it. So that means for 30 years now, basically 27 years, whatever it is, the reports on how much oil Venezuela has go back to Chavez. And all of a sudden, when they kick the US out, Chavez says, oh, we found more oil. And they add 66% more oil to their stockpile totals when they report to OPEC. What proof do they need? Trust me, bro. That's the proof. It's a really screwy system. And right now, what we'll probably see is this oil glut, where oil, literally, they're trying to hide it because they have too much oil waiting to be refined right now. And it's pretty cheap for a barrel. You guys know we almost had $100 a barrel at one point, and now we're back down to 55. So yes, are we running out of oil places? Certainly. Is it getting harder to drill in places? Certainly. Have we peaked oil in like the Middle East, perhaps? Maybe. Depends on who you ask. But all of this to say, those companies don't want Venezuelan oil now. They want to hold it in reserve for the U.S. And I'm assuming, if the government is smart in why they say they want the oil there, the U.S. government, that is, they want it so that it won't enter the market. They don't want that oil to enter the market and undercut the prices of American oil, unless it's being refined in America, in which case they would need to shift down production. And this is what may happen. They may fire thousands of people in America and in Canada, in the United States and Canada, in the central part of the country, both the tar sands and the shale, stop getting that hard to get and hard to refine oil and fire them, and they may fire it back up down in South America. But last estimate was $200 billion needed just to get the already drilled wells relined, redug. How, you know, I don't know what all goes into it, but, you know, Ivan and I were having to look into, like, if we get these fish put back, are they even safe? Or, like, is this going to be in the middle of an oil well, right? And the trick we found was basically that, you know, anywhere oil pops up is not safe. And, you know, once that happens, it could be you're just out of luck with the tetras. But the tetras that were at that reserve, it was very poor quality oil, very expensive oil to pull out of the ground, and needed to be refined in refineries in Texas. So with those things going on before the U.S. had moved, we had some math to do in our head over what are the chances that the U.S. gets a hold of all of Venezuela's oil and controls it. And also, what are the chances that the administration suddenly gets allowed to sell their oil, right? You know, or whatever, like weighing those two options and stuff. And I haven't talked exclusively to Ivan about this stuff since it all happened, because now the shit has hit the fan. Sorry, but that's the truth. And we don't know. Like, I need to hear what his thoughts from the ground are. But our whole project, you know, at least we still have this saved line of tetras that is breeding in captivity in the National Aquarium in Valencia. We have them spawning a few thousand fish a month, egg-wise. And we've been saving, you know, we were going to try to probably start with 5,000 or 6,000 fish released into these swamps and creeks in this oil preserve. It's also a nature preserve. Now everything is up in the air, because are the old oil contracts going to come back, and are they going to drill baby drill? Would that undercut things? But it's very mixed messages, because Trump's like, we want the oil. The truth is, we don't want the oil. We want to block the oil for now, so that we can keep refining the stuff that we spent all this money to refine, and that has American and Canadian jobs, and natural gas, for that matter, fracking and stuff, that's been established in America, is the calculus, it seems. And then are they going to fire it back up down there? Well, even in the best case scenario, that's a 3 to 5 year process. And that's like if they spent, you know, 400 billion, like did it fast, like all hands on deck, every expert you can hire, pay them double and get them down there. And so I think it is, one, I don't think that there's an immediate like emergency for these fish or anything. Two, we now know genetically, like, yes, they're the ones that were from the area. They are distinctly different from the ones in the hobby that basically were caught and re-released all over, you know, South America. But the other fish in Venezuela, you know, so if you look at where the oil reserves are in Venezuela, luckily for one, a lot of them are not like in the Orinoco basin, like right in the middle of the river or anything like that. There are obviously some, but most of it is on the border. Here, I'll pull up the map that I said I was going to forever ago. And even Google, this is another thing that we don't know, is like who owns what. Because there's an argument, there's a dispute on the border, and honestly, Guyana, Paraguay, French Guiana, those countries, there are like less than 1 million or 2 million people in these countries, and 80% of them live right on the coast and right at the mouth of these you know, of how do you say it? Paramaribo and Georgetown, I think, are the two big cities. One's in Suriname, one's in Guyana. And then there's Saint Laurent de Moroni. But then you also have like okay, let me see if I can pull this up. So this you'll find interesting, but also hopefully you'll see why some things are like it's gonna it's gonna impact us, but not crazy. And Maracaibo is another like giant lake area. But it's salty and brackish mostly. So some people were saying like, what about that area? There is a big reservoir also over by Guyana City, which is in Venezuela. Come on, share. What is going on here? Share screen, enhance. And guys, if you guys are enjoying the live stream, thumbs up. I appreciate it if you hit that thumbs up. I know it's hard because they don't like show it to you anymore. It drives me nuts that they don't do that, but I don't know. I guess they just hate me. All right. So here we go. Here's a map. Let me zoom out so you can see what you like. Alex, what are you even looking at? Okay. So we're looking at the world. Ta-da! World around. So Venezuela here. So in exciting news, like basically this whole chunk, like let me zoom in. This whole area that we are looking at, this Park Nacional Natural. I'm not going to even try to say that, but these areas here had guerrillas in Colombia, had fighters, the FARC, and a number of other resistance fighters. There's also the Gonzalez family. I can't remember what they call them, syndicate. And there's the Ramirez syndicate also. They control like the smuggling of people out of Brazil and Peru and those places up through Colombia, Venezuela. And then they basically either go up through Venezuela, up here, and then they try to zoom across towards, you know, the Dominican Republic, which is not too bad of a place to live. Obviously, Haiti is falling apart and just a terrible place to be. Or they want to go to, you know, American territory, Puerto Rico, get in there, any of these islands, or make a run all the way for up here for America, or over to Europe for that matter, over to the UK and which up here. And a lot of them will actually go to Nigeria or Sierra Leone, Cote d'Ivoire or Morocco, and then they'll go to Spain after that. But that's neither here nor there. These are patterns of human movement, and 20% of the country has left in the last 5 years, Venezuela, which is crazy. But if you look over here, look at this picture of the country, Guyana. So Venezuela says, we own all of this. We own all of the section of Guyana, 2/3 of the country, basically. But all the people pretty much live over here on this side of the country, on this side of the river. And there's Georgetown, which is the big capital city. And it's the big colonial city. It's where all the hotels and modern stuff are. And yeah, there's a couple things across the water too. But that is really your main civilization hub there. I think Guyana has like 2 million people or something crazy low like that. But yeah, they want this here. And the oil deposits are, can you guys see my mouse? Can you guys, I don't know if you can, hold on, let me scroll down. Also, by the way, I just saw Budget Bonsai with the $5. Glad you weren't canceled after keeping a fish in a 2.5 gallon aquarium. Well, thank you. You know, I try to show people that when I'm doing that, it's either a fish that needs very little room, or I'm just spawning it and it's going to go back. So let's see here. When we go in and we talk about the animals and things, though, in Venezuela, the real truth is this area right here is like the Wild West. This area here, absolutely cool, absolutely beautiful. There's things that have names here, but if let's go to satellite. In satellite, will it let me? Is it gonna let me? Oh yeah, stack here. I can stack here and go to terrain. Is that no? How do I go to more? Satellite. There we go. Okay. Get out of here. No. Come on. Hate the interface on this browser. Okay. So yeah, San Rafael. This is exactly where they just found in Venezuela. There's a San Rafael right here. And then there's also a San Rafael, where is it? Right over here. And then there's also a San Rafael on the Maracaibo. And then there's one right next to man, there's so many San Rafaels. One right next to, is it Medellin? That there's one right out here too. Or is it Bogota? Anyways, doesn't matter. But I was just literally trying to find a place named there's San Miguel's too. A lot of these places have a lot of these countries have like 5 places named the same thing. It doesn't help clarify things, makes it really tricky. But you can kind of see the shape of things, and you can see the dotted line over here in Guyana, that this whole chunk over here, Venezuela claimed a while back that's theirs, they want. And there are some historical why that claim might be theirs, might not be theirs. It's a whole political thing. I'm not going to get into it. But then, everything, obviously, when we zoom out, you can see more. Brazil is all these dotted lines. Those are states within Brazil, right? But up in here, state of Amazonas, that's just one state in Brazil, the deep Amazon. And right here, like here, you'll see like Iquitos. That's where Anthony Mazarol does all his work, right? In here. This is a city of 500,000 people in the jungle, the metro area. The city's about 100,000, but that's one of the biggest cities in the Amazon. And then you're going down here, if you look at the scale, 100 miles, you're going almost 800 miles down a curvy river before you get to the next big city like that, which is Manaus. And this is a major exporter of fish for sure. And a lot of fish come out of here. But that is not the main story that I was going to say, is the Orinoco is mostly contained within Venezuela, okay? And this is where Ivan lives, up here in Valencia. And then there's the lake of Valencia. But you see, Valencia is a big city, and it's in this very mountainous region, but it's also right on the coast. And this lake, it's not that big. It's only, 15 miles or something. Not a big lake. But if you follow these creeks and rivers back up into here, you will find that there is the diamond tetra, which was found very early on because of the place that it holds next to a large settlement city. But Venezuela, this river, the main river channel right here, there's another river that goes through here. There's another river down here. There's another one right here. All these places are getting, actually, this isn't the best way. I thought this would give us the best view, but it doesn't. We actually want to see the river here. So if we're looking though at Venezuela, so the main river of the Orinoco, it flows right through. So here's the delta. It flows out to the water, right? It goes by this place called Guyana City. It gets a ton of pollution from there. This is a big old reservoir that's all flooded. That's a dam made this. This is like man-made, but now it's a massive lake. Well, I don't know how much. It's what, 10 to 25 miles across, and probably 50 miles from the bottom here all the way up to the top here. So it's a pretty good size reservoir, hydroelectric project. But all these little parks and things, the one we're talking about with the diamond tetras is all the way up in here. And there's these other little lakes back in here and here. But Lake Valencia, all these mountains here, all the way around, flow, going all the way back up to here, all the way up to this little lake here. They all, at that state line or territorial line, they all flow back into Valencia. And so the water from there actually has like a crazy path in that there's no outflow. So all the water from Caracas, it flows back down into this lake again. And now you can see where this was clearly lake bed at one point. And now they've used the water so much and stuff that now there's like neighborhoods. And also they do the thing where they've developed land out into the lake, but very mountainous in any ways, up in the mountains all around the lake and going quite a ways. Some of these tributaries are surprising. Like they'll track all the way out to like, over here somewhere. And they'll say, oh, this one actually drains back into the lake too. It's part of that lake that goes back to Valencia. Whereas down here, most of this water either doesn't really flow anywhere other than to like aquifers and things, or it goes out to the Orinoco, which the Orinoco, pretty much anything from this highway up here where you have these cities here, anything from this highway down goes there. But Ivan says it's about a 2.5-hour drive for him to just get to the Orinoco River from Valencia up here. And that's about 120 miles. And streets just aren't always the best quality. But the Diamond Tetra project is definitely kind of on some thin ice. But the other thing that I was going to say, the whole point of showing you guys all of this layout of where you think of all these fish coming from, there's also the Guianan shield. So there's this whole chunk all the way like right through here, depending on how much you want to include. There's the idea too, all those cool earth eaters, the geophagus and stuff. There's a bunch of cool ones here. There's a bunch of cool ones over here in Colombia and down in the Amazonas state. And then all your typical species that you'd think of as aquarium species, basically all the way down to Mato Grosso, you'll see that stuff. And then, if you're looking for, some of the other things, like the Rio Zingu, or like Tucano tetras and stuff like that. Like that's all the way over here. So there is a large area that has these tropical fish, but there are actually fish too, all the way down in this area as well, like Mato Grosso. And some of the stuff from the hobby comes from all the way down there. And it's so hard to understand how big this is. Like if we're going to let's go all the way to 500 miles size. So like this state of Mato Grosso is over 500 miles from east to west, or I guess I should have said that west to east. The state of Amazonas, holy smokes! Let's see how big it is. It is. It is about 1,000 miles across from this point, from the little pointy spot up here, all the way down to this spot here. Now, some of this is indigenous land. They're not supposed to go into like preserves and stuff. But again, the rivers all split up, and here you got the main Amazon channel flowing, and it goes, depending on who you ask, somewhere between 1,800 and 2,300 miles, all the way out to here, all the way up into here. It's still saying the Amazon officially here. Marano River. Okay, so it might be. Does it stop? Oh no, it's Maranon River. Maranon. Sorry guys. Now I'm just interested myself in seeing where they actually stopped calling it the Amazon officially. Is it here? Probably here. Yeah, okay, so this is still Amazon. Maybe this split. Yep. So this split is where it stops being the Amazon officially. But a lot of people will say, like, hey, this is still this is still like a mile across, you guys. And in the wet season it might be more. All the way up to here. Like what no. But yeah, so the point of all of this though was to show you that Venezuela, yes, it has the Orinoco. Yes, there are tropical fish all the way up to the top of Venezuela. But a lot of the tropical fish that are in the south part of Venezuela, there's just imaginary borders that humans made up. Really, we get a lot of these fish from Colombia. We get a lot of these fish from Amazonas, state of Amazon, and we can fly them out of Manaus or up here. This is like that Guianan shield more, and there's a lot more elevation and stuff going on up here. Like a lot there. This is where the terrain starts to get a lot rougher. But the other thing I was gonna say is that there is a spot, and I'm trying to remember the name of it. It's not coming to me at the top of my brain, but I think it's somewhere right in this area. It might, is it really, did I really, is it really San Rafael again? Anyways, there's a spot right in here somewhere where all those cartels and people smuggling groups, as well as, powder smuggling and firearms and money smuggling and even oil and gold and all sorts of stuff going in and out of places. They're really close, in this area in general. It's 200 miles here from Venezuela to Peru. It's the Peru lowlands, obviously, and you could go by river though all the way around here. You can also connect up with the Orinoco River. I won't make you retrace it, but it's along these border lines here, and it goes down into here, and then you can go all the way to Manaus. But in Colombia, for a long time, they were exporting stuff that they would say, and it's somewhere that has a regional airport, and I can't remember because this is definitely one of the areas over here that I was told basically Ivan was saying, like, you could fly in to like over here and you can see all the fish that come from this Orinoco Delta or Orinoco River here. The Orinoco, much smaller than the Amazon, but it's still a good 290 to 400 miles, yet again, depending on how you want to measure it or whatever, I think. but then it flows into the swamps and flooded areas back in here. But a lot of this is protected, so nobody could be fishing there, right? Well, of course they are still fishing in these protected areas. And what's kind of wild is, like, see these areas here with elevation? There's a lot of spots in here, even though it's not showing them on the map, that there's little lakes, like that. It's not, yeah, here you go. You can see there's little streams. You see all these little streams? They're just little straight lines. Rio Cabanaburi, Rio. I mean, they're along these areas, so there might be some really interesting fish in some of these areas that are off the main channel, that have really adapted differently to all the flat land Amazon stuff. That's kind of the same. I mean, even though it's not exactly the same, it's kind of the same drainage basin, but you get a lot of the same fish. Well, the stuff that gets into the foothills in Colombia too, it gets very different. You get a lot of variety, a lot of difference. And same with Peru. Same with Ecuador. Ecuador is not well explored, fish wise, super well. And there's some of these other areas over in here that could really use another glance, some of these areas over here. But we've been flying anything we want out of Venezuela for years and years and years. There is no there, unfortunately, there's nothing stopping everybody. There's nothing stopping anybody from bringing stuff in and out. Andrea, that's very nice of you to ask, but my foot is doing all right. It is now, I was mentioning, it has healed to the point where it's now as healed as if I had no callus on my foot and it was just live skin, just pink skin, like you just slid on the pavement and scuffed your knee. It's about that level of cut or shredded. Okay, guys, so if you made it this far through me meandering and nerding out over maps, I have something kind of exciting. To getting a flight to San Rafael must be a nightmare. Yeah, it is a nightmare. But I can't go to Venezuela as an American without a darn good reason and very intensive paperwork from both sides of the aisle, right? Like, Ivan has to either go to like Mexico or Cuba, then Mexico, or Cuba, then for a while he could go straight to Miami from Cuba, but now he can't do that anymore. And then he has to go all the way to Maryland, where his sister is and their university is, and I can't transfer any funds on PayPal or anything to anybody in Venezuela. So literally, like, I'm cut off from our nonprofit. So we had to figure out like how his sister could do that, and like how we could have a basically like Cayman Island bank account sort of thing that's still transparent and like can report to the US IRS and the nonprofit status. But the fact that we had to kind of like create another entity, and thank God Yelka, his sister, is like a computer whiz and a like logistical genius, because she figured out like how that was going to need to happen. And Ivan and I were like, let's just send each other money. Like when you come to Sacramento, I'll bring you $2,000 in cash that I've raised. And very quickly, obviously, we knew that that's not how you do things with a nonprofit. But we were just like, what do we do now? Like, we can't share money because our countries hate each other. What's going on? It's been a trying situation. But the other thing is, now we have to decide, do we say that we have the genetics, we have the genome, we have the National Museum breeding the fish that Ivan found in some guy's backyard along the highway that was out by the Lake Valencia, and we've done and paid for now the overview, the survey of what is in those waters, in those mountains above Lake Valencia. That's taken care of. They've done the counts, the surveys, the electroprobing, and that stuff is really expensive to get done in a lot of countries, but it's actually pretty darn affordable in Venezuela because there's like no overhead costs. You pay a team of ichthyologists. All they get paid by the state is $80 or like whatever it is, something like what is it, like 100 euros or something a freaking month to exist and to basically work at the archives and stuff. And there are better notes from like all the way to the 1950s. Basically, Venezuela became a petrostate by the 1950s. The US and Canada and Europe, European, like BP and other places, basically ran that place until, you know, there was a democratic election, and then they handed over the power to a dictator, basically, when Chavez got in. And, you know, then from there he got really corrupt and took more and more power, and then Maduro took over. I don't think there's any arguing. Not good dudes, but you know, it's also this weird ironic thing where like the whole reason the tetras got killed was a natural act, kind of, in the it was mudslides, more rain than had ever rained in a 2-day period in the history of Venezuela rained in 1987 and washed out those hillsides, the gullies and stuff where the diamond tetras were living in the pools, puddles, and ponds. And you know, the creeks that then when it would rain would turn into like flooded forest or flooded fields, kind of. And there's pictures. Ivan's presentations also, I think, on the Sacramento Aquarium Society website or somewhere. You know, I've seen it online, so it does exist, and maybe we can host it on his website or on the nonprofit's website also. But it's just wild, the calculus that we kind of had to do in our head of like, should we do this project? Like, is it going to be safe? Like, is that area, will the fish be able to live there if we release them there? And the answer for the time being, when we thought of this 4 years ago, was yes. So we got that work done. We paid the ichthyologists double what they would get paid by the state in any given place, and we were fine with that. And then Ivan, I don't know what I can say. I think I can say this. So basically, Ivan met the guy who was in charge of deciding if we could get the permits to release the fish when the time came. So we had the permits to let the fish go that are native to that region, to reintroduce them. We got that all squared away before we even had the study of the impact of what would happen by re-releasing them. Because now there are tilapia, there's a bunch of other invasives and non-indigenous fish in Lake Valencia, but also some of those tributaries there may be as well. There are also a bunch of little tetras that are San Rafael video of with all. So I was talking about San Rafael because of the video of those little clear tetras, the miniature tetra video with the weird sail fin thing on their belly. That is why I was looking around that San Rafael area, But that is the San Rafael that's in between Colombia and Brazil, and it's also very, very close to Peru. The other San Rafael that I found that was in the middle of Colombia, and then there's another in south central Colombia, and there's another one in Venezuela on the border of Colombia that we found today. So it was just, yeah, there's too many of them. But what I was going to say is those little glass tetras are super interesting. We have no idea how many of those there are. Those have been so badly overlooked because they're clear little fish that look like the fry of existing tetras. Any skirt tetra, any something like a bleeding heart tetra, or even something like a rummy nose tetra, or a black neon tetra, or even a neon tetra. Their fry often look like that, half an inch long. I mean, that's where they max out, and they're clear usually. I mean, there's a few that have some color on them that I showed pictures of, but not much. And in water that's the color of Coca-Cola, or like it's more red than that. It's like cherry Coke. It's pretty wild, but yeah, I would like to get some of those for sure. Rayon Williams, Sport and Fun. Hello. And let's see here. Blessings. Appreciate your videos. And when you do the father fish method and explain, can you give me a list of schooling fish I can do in a 50 or in a 75-gallon aquarium? I want to start one. Thanks. Yeah, I can do that. Yeah, we'll stop talking about the politics and the oil and all that, but I just wanted to kind of give you guys a sense of what's going on, in that we don't know yet. Like, is it going to all blow up in our face, and now we'll just have like, okay, well, we know what lives in the lake now, and it's in a state of flux. So it's like, who knows if they uncap the oil wells and they don't have any regulations for anything. And, oil companies are notorious for, they follow so many regulations so strictly when no one's there to enforce it. So who knows if we're even going to kick out the current, vice president and stuff. We've made offers. Maduro was trying to make offers to pay money to go live in Europe and allow us to have some oil in exchange for him being able to get away. And these were talks that apparently, like, I didn't hear that was okay or in the open, but now the news has just talked about it very matter of fact, like, oh yeah, Trump had talked to, not Trump, but our, Rubio has talked to them just matter of factly, like, oh yeah, we thought about just paying them off. It's like what Joe Biden, his administration, from I think leftover from Obama, had a $25 million bounty on the head of Maduro if he was captured. And, they never did anything about it. That was so that they basically were keeping him in his own country, is what they were trying to do. And seizing any assets that he or the state would get their hands on. And for years, that's kind of been with the Chavistas. Is it Chavistas or Chavinistas? Anyways, the people who back Chavez. Now, one of the crazy other things that's really scary is in Venezuela right now, you could have Americans on the ground there. You could have 100,000 U.S. troops there. You couldn't control it. One, it's a jungle. Americans aren't jungle people. And there are a lot of people in Venezuela who are very accustomed to the jungle. For even the European Venezuelans have 600 years of dealing with the jungle or whatever. But then you also have the heat, the conditions, the plants, the disease with the mosquitoes. I mean, there's so many issues that make things difficult there. The rain, the mud, the seasons, the logistics of getting stuff down there and feeding troops, arming military, stuff like that. And right now, the way the country works is basically these organized gangs that are ingrained with the military. And I'm spacing on their name, but they estimate there's 300,000 members. And they basically are neighborhood thugs all over the country that are also like a colonel or a general or whatever, somebody in the military to some degree. And that's not the important part. The more important part is who they are in the underworld. And they are illegally armed on the streets. So they have these kids and teenagers and this whole like human smuggling. And at this point now, it's selling off the national resources. That's the big secret. Is it's not smuggling like powder into America. That's nothing. Less than 5% of the world's nose candy even comes from Venezuela. So that part's a joke. Like a lot of people will admit that that's a silly thing to say. And no, we don't give a damn about if he's mean to his people and he's killed a few thousand or tens of thousands of his own people. Now, displacing 20% of the population and having them want to come into America, that may be very well seen as the problem. At that point, it becomes a problem that he's that much of a problem down there. But yeah, so the scary part, though, is that even if the U.S. wanted to do something militarily, sure, we could get rid of them off the map as a organized government in like a day. In less than a day. Probably we could have done it like that night during that raid, right? But then what? We did that in Afghanistan too. You can put them back to the Stone Age. You can put them back to the Jungle Age. But what do you do when then they are fine with living in the jungle? And they can use surplus weapons from the U.S., from the Russians, from the Chinese, from the Iranians, from neighbors all around. This whole area has been fought over so many times. And Venezuela and Central and South America, it's been fought over ever since the Monroe Doctrine. Well, first you have the Spanish and the Portuguese fighting over all of South America, splitting things up. And then the Pope says, hey, we're going to divide the world in half. Take care of that. And that affects everything all the way to Indonesia. And you guys should, read about that if you don't know about that. But then, later comes in the Spanish. And then, are the French or the Spanish going to control that coastline of South America? Or the Dutch or the English. And then they are fighting in the 1600s about that. And it turns out, okay, looks like the Spanish are going to be the ones who are ingrained in South America. And there's some French on there too. And then, Portuguese for Brazil, just to throw, a big weird monkey wrench in it. But that's because the Pope said that's how it was going to be. But up into Central America and stuff, then America by the turn of the 20th century, well, really the 1890s, we start... Well, all the way back to the 1820s, we say, if it's in the Western Hemisphere, we want to control it. We want at least access to buy those resources. And whether you like it or dislike it, I'm not here to argue with that. But that's just flat out the Monroe Doctrine, controlling that and not allowing Europe to be the one in control of Western Hemispheric issues. We're the ones who control it in America. And that was the agenda, right? Well, then these states get enough power on their own that some of the people are like, hey, it's great that, Britain and the Dutch and the Spanish and America are fighting over us, but we're people here now and we want what we want, right? Or They overthrow in slave revolts and abolishing slavery and all these different things that happen throughout the Caribbean, Central America and stuff. Well, then the U.S. basically says, like, well, you can do whatever you want, but you got to be loyal to America if you're in this hemisphere. And we've backed up some of the most terrible people in the world. We've also taken out some pretty bad people too. But you see this all the way up, into Noriega and the early 90s. You see this going back to Argentina, Peru. We talk about, dictators, right wing dictators, and America backed quite a few just because of that fear of communism. So that's another reason why all these things get fought over again. And the stability has never come. The resources that are there, all this gold, all this oil, it's important that that area stays in chaos so that no one on the ground can get rich off of that resource, so that the multinational corporations, whether that's the Dutch East Indies Company, coming into America, or the British East Indies Company, and way back when, 1600s, or whether that's something like nowadays, or actually, let's go back to like the 1920s, like the Dole and Del Monte, and like all these different peach, pineapple, bananas, different fruits and things that we wanted controlled. The Panama Canal, we wanted control. So there's all these different crazy things. And right now, BlackRock just got the contract to control the Panama Canal. We talked about all the issues that the Panama Canal is having and all the ecological problems and stuff. They do not give one single flying you-know-what about the ecology of the Panama Canal. They just want to make sure that the super tankers can keep going. And they'd probably like to see more of that crude getting sold off, or maybe the U.S. bargaining some of that crude that Venezuela has in its dark fleets and stuff, because we don't know how much oil is floating on the oceans exactly right now. But there is, I saw 1.4 billion barrels as of last week, unaccounted for, from where it got pumped out of the ground, and it should be at refineries right now. It's just not. And so someone is playing with the market. They're waiting for gas to be a certain price, and they're either going to flood it, or they're going to say, oh, nobody gets any more, and then the price will set. So there's this thing. OPEC wants its revenge. Biden let the strategic reserve of oil, he released it throughout his whatever you want to call it, administration. And that's not really what it's for necessarily. It's for war. But it was to ease prices. And at the end of the day, to tell if America is energy independent, you see how much BTUs, how much energy are we burning, consuming for industry, for households, for everything, right? And how much are we selling? And all through Biden, we had a 3% surplus at the start of Biden's administration. By the fourth year, we had a 9% surplus. So we were burning something like 83,000 BTU. 83, it's actually like, it's in thousands, but it's measured by like billions of units or something. The blocks that they measure these in, the way they do the graph, that you can look at all this on your own. And the I know that some people might be like, Alex, you're not talking about fish, you're being really boring. But yes, I love Hardcore History by Dan Carlin, by the way. Absolutely love it. But these things are all connected. Even if you only care about the fish piece of the puzzle, this is the stuff that's going to determine, does the Amazon get turned into a big oil well, and then an oil spill happens and we never get to discover the creatures there? Or for that matter, maybe there's a terrible dictator in charge and we don't care, and as long as we get oil, they destroy the environment and the people. I mean, already we see the mercury and the arsenic in the Amazon just killing tons of fish. Plus the natives of the Amazon, I'm not going to say like, oh, they're all innocent. No, they're using this other stuff that they poison. They throw in the water. It's a natural plant, but it kills, it sucks all the oxygen out of the water, and they catch all the fish that way. But most of the fish die after they do that. And that was great 200 years ago, when nobody else other than maybe 40 people from this tribe were doing that on a little side channel of the river every few days. But when you get them trying to live in the modern world and pay for it in fish, like food fish, like dried salted fish and stuff that's worth like pennies, then it means they kill a lot of those fish to try to feed all these people that have moved to the city. And then they go into town and they sell these dried fish, and they don't care what it is. They'll sell the little dried fish that are this big by the kilo. And this is really killing a lot of the Amazon, a lot of these flooded forests and things. Luckily, these species have evolved so that they have the strategy of having a lot of babies. They have a lot of babies, and they just let go of them and let them swim away downriver when the wet season starts. Things like Corydoras, things, plecos, all that kind of stuff. Tetras, pencilfish, all that stuff. The big exception, I guess, would be some of the stingrays, some of the there are some other catfish and things that do more of like burrowing den stuff. And then there are some quirky cyprinids and things like splash tetras that will lay eggs up on a leaf. But all this stuff has to have its niche, and a lot of them, the niche is make as many babies as you can that develop at slightly different rates. And when the rain falls and the water rises, that's when you need your fry ready to swim. So you need to have your babies either right before the wet season or when the wet season starts. Then by the time the wet season is in full effect at its height, that's when your babies need to swim away and establish their own lives. Now, when that dry season comes around again, though, all those puddles and lakes and those forest floors that maybe once were dry land, and then for 4 months or 6 months out of the year, they're under a foot to 8 feet, 20 feet, depends on where you are, of water. Those areas, then the low-lying areas, turn into ponds and things, and you'll get these dense concentrations of sometimes a bunch of fish that were in that area. And that's oftentimes why we see things like, and it happens all over the world in any of these areas where you get fish and the monsoon season, the wet season, dry season, massive changes. But you'll get all these fish huddled together and that are going to live this way. Things like bettas and rasboras, kuli loaches, hillstream loaches, stuff like that over in Indonesia and Borneo and Papua New Guinea. Then over, here in South America, where we've been talking, though, things like apistos and acaras and like fish like that take care of their young, they tend to try to hang out in the places that instinctually they can tell are wet year round. but they want to be on the shallow edge of that, and they kind of follow the shallow shore a lot of times, or at least, a couple feet deep. But a lot of times you'll see that the apistos and stuff like that, they're living in only a matter of inches of water that's super tannic, and it's like, just jet black or a deep reddish brown, and they're having their babies in the leaf litter there, and they're eating all the little critters in the leaf litter there, and biofilm and all that stuff that's in there. But the other fish, all the tetras and all the pencil fish and all your characins and stuff like that, and your also things like your pink-tailed chalceus and stuff like that, that is expensive in the hobby. It's expensive because it's hard to get out. Like, it's a fish that's oftentimes yay big and, a pretty fish, but there's like millions of them down there that you can catch in giant net loads of them. It's a matter of them being hard to bag up, hard to oxygenate, hard to treat with medication, all that kind of stuff. And during the wet season's end, though, most of those fish, other than the ones that stay in the year-round areas, so if they take care of their young, there's a really good chance that those fish, their strategy is long-term care of their young, and so they do not let their babies die in one season. They want to hold on to their babies. They would not spend the energy, the calories. They did not evolve that way to let their babies just go away. The babies will eat the weaker ones in cichlids like that, but that's basically thinning the herd. And if the firstborn and most aggressive that leave the parents first go out and they're hunting bugs and doing things, if they're doing well, they survive and they go off and they leave first. There's also the runts of the pack, or whatever you want to call them, and then there's some in the middle too. But there may be in one group of fish, if you ever raised fish in a tank, you'll see that sometimes there's fish that they look 2 or 3 months older than the other fish at like 4 months old. Some look 4 months old and others look 1 month old still. And you're like, why is this thing still like a little tadpole fry? And it's just getting out competed, or it's just got the slow genes and then getting out competed. And in nature, the strategy is that those weaker ones will either be food for the stronger ones, or if the weaker or if the stronger ones got wiped out by something, they're the backup plan that's slower, that's on a different time frame. So if food is low, they eat way less than the ones that are 10 times their mass by that time. And the things like tetras, things like any schooling fish, those are all going to basically get stuck in the areas that dry out, and a lot of them just perish. So like something like 90% of like neon tetras, cardinal tetras get stuck in dry areas that then completely dry out. And then what they are, though, is their nitrogen, their phosphates, their calcium, their nutrients for the forest. They're like protein bars for the forest. And ants and birds and insects, and then small mammals, and then bigger mammals, and the other things that eat the other things that eat the other things. It brings all this life, just like salmon does in North America. You are literally bringing back all these calories and energy up into the mountains from the bottoms of the ocean, from like the continental shelf and from the kelp beds, where some of the richest energy, pound for pound in kelp and in all the little micro plankton and stuff, where these salmon grow up and then they get big and fat quickly, and they go back up inland upstream, they pass away, and they're decomposing, and there's a 40 or 50 or 60-pound body of pure vitamins, energy, fat, nutrients there for that forest. And the eagles pick them up, the bears pick them up, they spread them all over the place, not just right where the creek and the river is. And the same thing happens though with these tiny fish, with birds eating them. And not birds are notorious for not digesting things super fully, and so a lot of times they will also spread eggs of things that way too. So the thing I wanted to mention for somebody who had asked, when mollies and guppies eat their own fry, is that more of a captivity thing? Yes. So Lisa, they've found in the wild that guppies and mollies and platies, most live bears, don't predate on their own fry hardly at all. If there's another genetic line, they will predate on that at 2 or 3 times the rate that they would predate on their own genetic relatives. Okay. So if there's a stranger group down the creek that's not, they can't smell that it's related to them, or however they tell each other apart, then they will say, game on, let's eat these guys. But if there's not enough like pheromone in the water, basically, if there's not enough hot looking dudes and ladies, then they will spawn rather than eat each other. It has to do with they have to have all their food needs met before they start eating each other. And then it's usually an overpopulation issue, like you're saying, like they wouldn't do it though unless, like, in aquarium, think how absolutely, even in an aquarium where you've got 12 tetras in a 10-gallon, think about how crazy that is. Like in a river, that's some density. When you think about the whole river and the fact that you might have like a mile across stretch, and then say that whole mile by 1 mile, your fish are going to be in like 5 or 6 groups, and there's a million of them or something, and it's 30 feet deep or 20 feet deep in the center. You've got all that volume, the billions of gallons or hundreds of millions of gallons just in that chunk of river. And think about how diluted the water is in nature versus in our aquariums. Like, our aquariums are so densely populated by both plants and fish. That's why we have to be so careful with cycling and stuff too, because it can get out of hand very quickly. But the cat is being really funny right now. So let me wrap up a few things. So first of all, I would say in a 75-gallon tank, I always have 55, 75, 90. I always have the thought that you can do it 2 ways. You can have a bunch of tiny fish, and by tiny fish, I mean anything under 3 inches, really, 2.5, 3 inches. You can have some cleaners, so some plecos or ancestris, maybe a high value 2 or 3 plecos, have some caves for them at the bottom, or you could get a cool group of like 10 or 15 or 20 Corridoras and have them have like a whole little motorcycle gang of them swimming around, doing their thing, going up and down the glass. Super fun to watch. If you haven't ever owned Corridorus, any of those little small catfish, or even the Autocinclus catfish, in a group of like 20 or more, it is a whole new experience than what you get with, say, a school of 10 or 15. There's something about that, like, I don't know where the cutoff is. With different species, it depends, but somewhere over 10 to 20-ish fish, all of a sudden it gets really, really wild, and they're super, super fun to watch. Now, I say, so have your ground crew, your bottom thing. You could get like Farowellas or twig catfish, lizard catfish. Then you can also pick something as kind of your rock star or your centerpiece fish. So something like a pair of angels or 5 angels. But whatever you want to do, if it's a if it's a 90 gallon, you could easily do 5 angels. You could probably do 5 angels in a 55, no problem, or a 50, no problem. Even a 40 breeder, I've done 5 angels before. Now they can get big, 6 years old, an angel is going to be like 9 inches tall. Just remember that. So that's why I think the 75 or 90 is better. Even the 55 is good for angels because it's got the taller, skinnier vibe. But you can get discus or angels to be your showstopper, then get some interesting catfish or cories down at the bottom. And depending on how much filtration you have and how many plants you have, that's what kind of decides then how you can use the rest of your space. If you have something like Oscars or green terrors or eels or anything that just eats a lot of protein and meat, and that is a fish that weighs half a pound or a quarter of a kilo or something, you're gonna want to have really good filtration and some plants. But basically that's like a protein gut bomb that's going to be in that tank, and no matter what you do, it's going to be a little tricky to keep that tank clean because they're just messy too. Same with like goldfish, same with a lot of plecos, a lot of ancestors. Just like they've got this spiral belly and their poo comes out just this spiral sometimes. If you've seen it, it's like a curly Q. It's like 6 inches long and you're like, what? It's all one piece? Gross. And then it breaks up and whatever. That's why you need isopods or shrimp, other things that will break down detritus, or at least the fungus that is breaking it down that's growing on it a day after it's there, and bacteria. But I pick whatever my rock star is going to be. So whatever my my discus or maybe some gouramis, whatever it may be, try to pick something not too aggressive ideally. Or if you're going to pick something aggressive, then you got to pick semi-aggressive fish for the whole thing. So you could do like cribs and angels and like kind of mid to low aggression cichlids. And then you could also throw in some things like Congo tetras or whatever. That's totally fine too. But I think it's a much more dynamic tank to have fish that you're thinking are utilizing the bottom, some fish that are foraging on the bottom and they're going to eat the food that drops past the mid-water and top-water fish. Maybe have something like pseudomagills or pencil fish or hatchet fish or butterfly fish or even some rainbow fish, whatever it may be. A betta, I don't know, it depends on what you're doing. But you can have all those at the very top of the water. And if you have floating plants, or if you let your plants grow to the surface level like this, then they'll feel safe and they'll be fine. And they'll get that kind of first round of stuff. But then under that, you can get your fillers. So your schooling tetras and stuff. And I think that that's when those schooling fish do best, is when they have 1 or 2 big fish that kind of make them a little tense or nervous, like, oh, we don't want to go too close to that angel fish. But there's still enough room in the tank for 20 neon tetras to scoot by. And down at the bottom, they won't even pay attention to the Corydoras until it's time that, an algae flake falls down or something, and all of a sudden they eat all that. Alex, what is a good cleaner for cold temp tank? I always like vinegar and hydrogen peroxide. Those are my go-tos. If I'm really, really trying to clean something, I will then go with bleach or dilute some bleach. Hold on one sec. It's my wife calling. One sec. Hello, baby. How's it going? I'm streaming. What's up? You are? Where are you at right now? Oh, Why are you so late? Oh, okay. Oh, okay. Okay. As long as you're okay. All right. Okay. Well, I love you and drive safe, honey. Bye. Sorry about that, guys. My wife usually is home an hour and a half hour ago, and apparently I didn't get a text because I've been yammering away here, obviously. But she sent me something. I'm grabbing wine with my coworkers. Okay. So they went and got wine down in Seattle, in the heart of Seattle, where she works, down in the industrial district. And I'm here with my Dr. Pepper that's now warm. I didn't even open it, you guys. I have a flat one from last night that I had in the fridge with a tin foil over the top of it to try to keep it from going flat. That did not work. Sometimes that does help. It did not work this time. A good cleaner, though, I think if you need to get rid of bacteria, fungus, parasites, like bleach is going to be like a big nuke. But you need to definitely rinse that well and then let it air dry and then rinse it again and then let it air dry. But if it's something where you just need to clean a piece of something, you can use even like a lemon or a lime and just like cut it in half and like on the glass. That actually, can disinfect and kind of clean up some of like little tough crud that's crusted onto glass or hard water stains. Plus it's got the acidity to break up any lime scale or whatever. And then the main thing though that I would use is hydrogen peroxide for like algae that's hard to get off in order to kill it. But sometimes when you kill it, it gets harder, more crusty and dry, and then you just need a razor blade. But hydrogen peroxide is the safest thing, probably, in that vinegar can throw your pH off and make your water really alkaline and be a problem. Or wait, no, that's not right. Vinegar would be acidic. Wait, now I'm confusing myself. Vinegar, what is the average pH of vinegar? 2.5. Okay, so yeah, it's acidic, but so vinegar pH and then lemon pH. Lemon pH. Okay, so a lemon is even lower, around 2. Some are 3. Meyer lemons are 3. Okay. Yeah, both those have nice acidity. They'll eat through lime scale and stuff like that. But blank Dr. Pepper. Sometimes I like flat pop. You're a monster, Randall Ben. Monster. Mr. Monks, hey Alex, heard you talking about saltwater earlier. After learning some fresh water from you, I jumped into saltwater about 18 months ago. Different world, but not as difficult as they say. That's awesome. I mean, I need to get back into saltwater. I had some interest in it and I read about it and stuff, but I still have never kept a tank other than a tank from the Pacific Northwest. I've kept local fish and sea anemones and stuff in a tank where I had a filter and everything running, and I don't know if it was really cycled or whatever, but I was like 12 or 13 and I had sea anemones and crabs, and I'd like pick them up and put them in buckets, and then we'd refill the tank, this like 10-gallon tank, with buckets and water bottles. And I lived about a 1.5-mile walk from the water, so I would go with a jug each day for like the week or whatever, and I'd get like 2 gallons in one of those big old jugs. It was heavy to carry at the time, but whatever, 20 pounds or so. and then I would give it more aquarium water, which probably had all the little, little creatures and critters and stuff in it that allowed them to, like, sea anemones and coral, or not coral, but sea slugs, sea anemones, the fan, I can't think of their name, but all the little soft, pretty stuff, the colorful, soft stuff that waves in the breeze, in the wind, in the water. Uncle Joe's, nice to have you here again. Uncle Joe's, where's that? Bruce Donnelly says, I've used vinegar for hard water stains on my tanks. Right on, yeah. See, we got someone putting their money where their mouth is, putting their mouth where my money is. Maybe that's what I mean. So the other thing, guys, I have one more freaking announcement, and it's pending. Let me see if I actually have any new news. New news. Newsy news. Okay. Big news is that on poker face. Okay, guys, I've worked a long time on this, in the idea that I toured their facility for the first time in 2019, then 2022, 2024, and I was so impressed. They're expanding, like, another huge, like, Costco, super Costco size amount of building. They are the biggest fish farmers in the United States of like ornamental fish in the US, independent, family owned fish farmers that are here on US soil fully. And they also do import, and they do a lot of care species, and Rift Lake cichlids, and like interesting cyprinids and rainbows and stuff. But if you don't know from what I'm saying already, there is a company. There is a company in Land of Lakes, Florida. They call Imperial Tropicals. I'll share my screen direct with you, and we'll talk about tonight's topicals. Now, children, don't you do what I have done. I've got you these sale prices direct from his son, the owner named Mike. He's a pretty cool guy. So is this Mike. His name's Mike. That's a tie. That's two Mikes. So if you go to Imperial Tropicals, check out imperialtropicals.com, and I'll get you a discount if you use the checkout word FISHTORY, all caps, in the house of the rising sun. Okay, guys, so yeah, after years and years talking with these guys, dealing with these guys, watching them upset the apple cart, do some awesome things in the industry, tell the big distributors, like, hey, we're going to do this ourselves. Y'all can go fly a kite. Like, we're not going to, when they used to get asked, all these farms in in Florida used to get asked, hey, could you guys, could you maybe in 6 months from now have 20,000 Bosemani rainbows ready for us? And they'd say, okay, if you can guarantee us that, we'll give you 20 cents a fish when they're grown out. So they do the math and they're like, okay, well, after feeding and blah, blah, blah. All right, so that looks like that makes us maybe 6 cents profit on each fish. Then all of a sudden, they'll say, you know what, actually, we only want 10,000 and you have a non-compete clause, so you can't sell those other ones to anyone in the industry. Oh, that's messed up. And that is what was happening all through the late 90s, early 2000s. I don't need to name names on the worst of it or anything, but it was really bad. And the farmers were feeling, pinched by inflation and the world and fish prices and all these things on top of the fact that there's this going on. And they broke away. They said, you know what, let's start selling direct to retailer. So just like Aquahuna does, where you can't buy if you're from in the state. And actually, I don't know. I don't think that's a rule in Florida, but I might be wrong. But these guys down in Lakeland, Florida, they've got, you can go watch my tour. It's like an hour long, and I do a bad job because I'm talking over the owner because I'm literally so excited, and we've been hanging out for hours already, just getting fired up, talking about like, oh, what's your favorite, fish? Oh, check these out. I've got some of those that are your favorite fish or whatever. Just a super place to go. And, we've got the Moonlight Aquatics with FISHTORY 10 as the code, and you get 10% off. That's on top of any existing sales too. This one is also off, like if they have their sale section here, for instance, and you can see some of the really cool fish. Like right now, $7.99 instead of $20. This is the thick skin obliquidans, haplochromis. So that's Lake Victoria. They're fairly aggressive, I would say. As you can tell with the mouth open. No, they like to lip lock and wrestle and stuff. But yeah, they're interesting. I mean, look at this Anubias nana. Usually $8.99. But a second ago, where'd it go? From $4.49 for the smaller pot. Also, Thorichthys aureus blue. These guys are pretty cool for $9.99. You can get them unsexed. It basically is the deal here, but you can get in other locations, sometimes on their website or not. But these are they're real similar to firemouths. They have the same ancestor as firemouth cichlids from Texas and northern Mexico. Meow, 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 meow. And again, kind of mean, but $9.99 instead of $24.99. They've got all sorts of really great big Central American cichlids, and they've got really cool rainbow fish. Chalinochromis bifrenatus, another kind of interesting African one. Okay, you can go do whatever you want to do. Be you, kitty cat. If you want to sing out, sing out. If you want to be free, because there's a million ways to be. You know that there are. And if you want to be you, be you. And if you want to be me, be me. Because there's a million things to be. You know that there are. You know that there are. And if you want to get high, stay high. And if you want to be low, be low. 'Cause there's a million ways to go. You know that there are. You know that there are. Okay, sorry. Had to sing with the kitty a little bit. But yeah, also the Flameback Haplochromis cichlid from Lake Victoria. Ooh wee. Where were those? Yeah, these ones right here. Just any of these normally, I mean, some of these are up to $34.99, and yet they've got them on sale for $7.99 right now. So they get some pretty killer deals in here. Also, young Congo Tetras, $11.99 right here, which is cool. But if you want to get my discount for this, also they've got some Silverado Endlers, which is buy one get one. And right now, I think I don't know how it's working with males versus females. That's something I should ask. But it looks like male is what they're saying. Maybe they have a glut of males. But $5 a pop for Endlers that are, Silverado. That's pretty impressive. Also, $3.99 for Sunburst Platy. So keep an eye out. Imperial Tropicals, they raise some of the most incredible, these creamsicle Dalmatian mollies. Absolutely insane. $6.99. Just beautiful. If you buy one fish, you receive two. $6.99. I mean, super cool. Same with these assorted molly packages, assorted swordtail. So, they've got gold dust mollies and stuff too. But I mean, a 3-pack is only $10.99, and you just get some assorted variety. A 10-pack, which, let's be frank, that's probably what you want, something like that, so that you can, have babies. $32.99 for their swordtails. I mean, look at these. They've got pictures of what's in. They also stream Friday mornings, and they also stream another time too, I think. I'll give you guys more info. But they've got some pretty cool stuff that, like, Aquatic Arts doesn't quite seem to carry. A lot of, like, the bigger cichlids, platies, bigger, some of the livebearers are just different. And then they also have a really different, like, eels and earth eaters and tetras and rainbow fish and stuff that you just don't see elsewhere a whole lot, unless you're at like a convention or something. And a lot of this is bred by people that are like, Gary Lang will drop off the fish, bring these Kali Birus that are normally $30 right now. They're $14.99 on sale. Look up what these look like when they're fully grown. Chilantharina fasciata from Kali Biru. You'll find them just if you look up Kali Biru. But some of these are really rare, unusual things. Others are a little more common. But I am now teaming up with them. I'm going to be working with them. And for now, the idea is right now, we have a deal where you guys get 5% off. I know that's not that much. And I get a cut of 10% after all the profits, the shipping, all that's been like accounted for. So whatever they made with everything cleared and all said and done, the employees, the lights, the energy, however they sort that, I believe, it's like 10% or under. And what I'm trying to argue with right now is I'm asking if they'll allow me to give you guys the 10%, and I would take the 5%. And I haven't gotten an answer yet. They're thinking about it. So I don't know what's up yet. Cheapest shipping is 50. Yep, it is expensive shipping for overnight shipping for rare and good quality fish. Now, granted, I wouldn't go online to most places. I'd go to Moonlight Aquatics online in a heartbeat, and I'd still order stuff overnight. It's going to be 35 for me, maybe 40 bucks if I were to order it to my house. You know, I'd go up to a shop if that were the case. But if I couldn't and I had something I wanted there, I'd, use the codes I can use, and then I would order like probably a couple $100 worth of stuff. If you don't order a couple $100 worth of stuff, you are not going to get much bang for your money, bang for your buck. And, sorry, that's just the way it is. Share with friends, talk with people that are in your fish club. All of that can help immensely in taking off the burden that on you for like, oh, I don't want to pay $80 for shipping, 20 fish or whatever it ends up being with heat packs in winter and yada, yada, yada. But these people who charge stuff like that for the shipping, they know what they're doing, and that's just what shipping costs these days. If people are saying, oh, it's going to be 12 or 16 bucks for shipping, then they're just wanting you to buy, and they're going to send it slow ground, and unless it's maybe a really hardy shrimp or guppy or something, and it's in a very hardy box, and it's a short trip to get to you, and you live somewhere where it's mild weather, that's the only way it works. A lot of times, otherwise, they all pass away, or you get them, which is even worse, and they have ick, they have flukes, they have all these stress problems, their slime coats falling apart, they're pale, their bellies are sunken, and it's because they're just stressed beyond belief, and they weren't fasted before they were sent, they weren't flushed out with clean water and QT. No, I've been streaming, so she has not gotten her dinner yet. Oh no, wife disappeared. There we go. But guys, I'm gonna get going. I appreciate all y'all. I'm gonna work on getting you a better discount at Imperial Aquatics if I can. Imperial Tropicals if I can. But go there, check it out, see if there's anything that flutes your boots. They've got a different set of stuff than all the other people I support. You still can get 10% off, and just like this, you can get these sale prices with my code. So you just go there, buy the sale price item, and then use my code at checkout. You'll still get that as long as you're not applying another code first. But it helps the channel immensely, and it saves you a little bit of money if you are already looking to buy fish. So I greatly appreciate all y'all. Randall, Ben, thank you so much. And Jan, thank you as well. Mike, what's up? Thank you and hello. Does everyone use oxygen, or is it okay to use air? I think most people use air. If I'm shipping plants, I always use my own breath. I go, like I let the bag kind of collapse, but moist, wet, or damp, a little bit of condensation on everything, maybe like some water in the corners of the bag. Then I'll breathe warm, humid air into the bag until it expands and it's all like foggy. Then I'll tie that off. And that's usually how I send stuff. Maybe I'll put a paper towel, wrap it around it if it's something really that like Rotala or something that needs to stay extra damp. And then the other what was the other part of that? Fish Dreams, good to see you. And yeah, way out of your range. No, I get it. The thing is, if you want to spend good money on breeding fish or like plants, like I will buy a Logonandra meboldi like species of plant in my tanks, something like this. Now my finger doesn't even show up. this green leaf plant that's growing way back when in this picture, yeah, I might start something like that, and I may pay $100 or $200 for it. And I know that there's places where maybe I could get another specimen for 80 or 120, but that would be, a hard find. So I buy it for that at an auction or whatever. I propagate it, and then what do? Do I sell it for 150 or $100 again? No, I sell it for 50, but I sell 8 or 9 of them, right? And I kind of flood that local market, and then I kind of pass the word on to others of like, hey, I happen to have this many plants right now, or this many baby this is or that, and make your money there and set it aside, and then have that be your your luxury money, your treat of, I want to order something online. Now if you have an incredible local fish store, shop there for, by all means. If you have a place that QTs things, that has good genetics, not sick fish, go there. That's totally where you should be. But for a lot of you that are out in the middle of the sticks and don't have anything like that, that's where these places, I hope and I think, come in handy. Also, some of them just carry any place I've friended or have an affiliate association with is a place that carries things that are unusual. Now, Aquatic Arts usually has like a pretty predictable fish collection, but they have crazy shrimp and lobsters, crayfish. Sometimes they'll bring in really unusual fish, but it's an eclectic assortment, and that's the goal, is to be able to tell you guys these people are ethical, they're doing it right, they're raising the fish right, they have good genetics, good health, good customer service if anything is to go wrong, and they'll take care of you, or I'll even take care of you if something goes wrong. Like, that's how much I stand by the people that I support this way. And yeah, so guys, I'm gonna get out of here. Get out of here. And I hope you all have a wonderful evening. It's fun to chat. Sorry we got a little off the fish topic, talking about the situation with Ivan and I. Well, I'm not down there, but poor Ivan in Venezuela. Really does depend. Is the U.S. going to be just hoping to puppet control the new, or not new, but the existing vice president, or are we going to install the woman that was rightfully voted for last year and it should have been taking her spot January 10th or 8th? It either just happened or it's like tomorrow. But anyways, that is how the election should have gone. If my wife eats any more popcorn, I'm gonna throw her out of the house. I don't eat it. I'm not eating it. Anyways, Chance Larson, thank you so much for the super chat. It's a lot to me. Anyways, I hope we talked about some of these topics without getting too politically charged, but so that you guys can understand. So even if you listen to it and you think Alex is full of crap, he didn't know what he was talking about, just go fact check the things I was talking about, and then come back to me and you can tell me what you think after you fact checked anything that you think is wrong. And I know some people like the politics, but I just don't like splitting y'all up when different people have different ideas and there's different incentives. I don't know what it's like to live when your whole life may have been surrounded by the members of some specific political party in some really unstable or scary place where starvation becomes a reality and things like that. We're getting on the good side and the good graces of that mean the difference between your family living and or having shelter, stuff like that. I can't imagine it, and I'm fortunate, so fortunate to not have to. But to remember that daily is so important. It makes me enjoy the fish. It makes me enjoy the beauty of the world and of nature, and the calmness and the tranquility, all so much more. And Denang, thank you so much as well for the super chat. You guys are far too kind. So thank you guys for all the super chats. Thank you for hanging out. This is a long one. We went over 2.5 hours, and I felt like I owed it to you. Yeah, I just wanted to get that in because sometimes I don't make an hour stream twice a week. Sometimes it's 1, 2, or 3 hour stream once a week. But oh, thank you so much. Oh, we got one more super chat. Thank you, Jan. You are the best. And I love your name on here. It's cute. It's like Finding Nemo, or I don't know. It's just adorable. But anyways, thank you so very much. It's very kind of you. Makes a big difference, especially the last couple months when I decided to make Discord free. Essentially, I now have, I think, $44 coming in on Discord, which don't get me wrong. I'm not complaining. I think at its height, I was making 300 2 years ago, right when or a year and a half ago when we started doing it, and there were all these promises for things to come. So I am just grateful that y'all supported me when you did, and those of you who did when you did. But at the same time, it's just a little it's a little wild that when I made it free, then everyone jumped ship. It's okay though. That if that works for you, then so be it. I think that's great. I think also we might have gained a few members from that just shuffled things around. That's great too. But anyways, you guys, I'm gonna get out of here. I am starting to fade a little bit now. My eyes are starting to get sensitive to light and stuff like that. So I'm gonna get out of here. But I really do appreciate all you and had a good time. If you have questions, thoughts, comments, concerns, just put them on a piece of paper, write them down real specifically, and then just wad that up and throw it in the trash for me because I don't care what you have to say. I'm just kidding. Burn it. Don't throw it in the trash. Have a good night, you guys, because I'm free as a bird now, and I'm free falling, and I'm free to do what I want.